Of Chapter 20, Employment Law. Introduction to Employment Law. Laws governing employer-employee relationships, distinction between employees and independent contractors, employment at will. Employees and employers can terminate employment at any time for any reason. U.S. versus European approaches. Exceptions to at-will employment. Contract theory, express or implied contracts altering at-will status. Tort theory, emotional distress or fraud in termination. Public policy, protecting employees from termination for illegal, retaliatory, or discriminatory reasons. Wrongful discharge claims. Child labor, Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, minimum wage and child labor protections. Restrictions by age, under 14, limited non-hazardous work, 14 to 15, permitted work but no hazardous jobs, 16 to 18, no hazardous work, longer hours allowed. Overtime, FLSA provisions for overtime pay, time and a half for over 40 hours. Exempt workers are executives, administrators, and professionals. Family and medical leave, up to 12 weeks unpaid leave for specific reasons. Applicability, employers with 50 plus employees, employees with 1+ year tenure, protections of jobs and benefits during leave. Other worker protections, workers' compensation, benefits for workplace injuries, unemployment insurance, eligibility for state benefits after job loss, Social Security disability, federal benefits for inability to perform any full-time work, Affordable Care Act, employer mandates for health insurance and subsidies for low-paid workers. Privacy in the workplace, balancing employer supervision and employee privacy, monitoring work-related activities, emails, calls, and internet use, reasonable expectations of privacy for personal communications, employer best practices for transparency in monitoring. Outline of Chapter 21, Discrimination. Title 7 of the Civil Rights Acts prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, or sex. Applies to private employers with 15 plus employees and all government employers. Requires filing complaints with the EEOC before lawsuits, recognizing by courts for all business entities. Types of discrimination cases. Disparate treatment. Intentional discrimination. Plaintiff must prove membership in a protected class, qualification, adverse action, and preferential treatment of non-protected individuals. Employer defenses. Legitimate reasons, better qualifications. Mixed motive cases. Decision valid if justified, absent discrimination. Disparate impact discrimination. Unintentional discrimination against protected classes. EEOC's 4/5 rule measures statistical discrimination. Employer defenses, job-related necessity and business justification. Constructive discharge and retaliation. Constructive discharge is intolerable conditions forcing resignations. Retaliation is adverse action against employees opposing discrimination. Categories of discrimination: race, color, and national origin. Applies to all races and ancestries. Sex includes gender identity, sexual orientation, and pregnancy. Equal Pay Act prohibits pay disparities for equal work. Religion requires reasonable accommodation unless undue hardship occurs. Age, ADEA protects individuals 40 plus from age-based discrimination. Disability, ADA protects employees with substantial physical or mental impairments. Requirements, requires reasonable accommodations barring substantial financial hardship. Defenses to claim of discrimination, business necessity, essential requirements for job performance, bona fide occupational qualifications, reasonable characteristics necessary for the role. Race or color can never be valid BFOQs. Outline of Chapter 22, sexual harassment under Title 7 prohibits sex discrimination, including sexual harassment. Two main types are quid pro quo, sex for favors demanding in exchange for job benefits. Hostile work environment, pervasive sexual behavior affecting work performance. Two-part test for hostile environment claims. Objective, reasonable person would find the conduct hostile. Subjective, victim found the conduct severe or pervasive. Harassment by supervisors, employer liability requires tangible employment action by the supervisor. Ellerth/Farragher, affirmative defenses. Employer took reasonable care to prevent/correct harassment. Victim unreasonably failed to utilize preventative measures. Employers often use policies, training, and HR measures to address harassment. Retaliation by employers. Forms of retaliation include firing, demotion, reassignment, or changing terms of employment. Plaintiff must show retaliation would deter reasonable workers from reporting. Retaliation can also apply to employees assisting in investigations. Conclusions. The #MeToo movement increased awareness of the workplace harassment. Federal rules requiring filing claims with EEOC within 180 days. EEOC investigates and facilitates mediation or issues a notice of right to sue. I forgot to put these at the beginning, but my quote is a foundational feature of U.S. employment law is that employment at will. Under this doctrine, the employee can quit at any time for any reason, and the employer cannot terminate the employee at any time for any reason. The employer can terminate the employee at any time for any reason. A takeaway I had from this is that there are a lot of laws, and I mean a lot of laws, to make sure every side of every argument or relationship is protected. And then a connection I had is with marriage, not our marriage. It's kind of like employment at will. Either person could leave at any time, but not ours.